Hello and welcome to my channel. My lighting looks weird today or something. I don't know. I look like I've been out on the beach or I don't know. Whatever. It's the end of October, okay? And we're just posting our very last takes on some ideas. You watched my last video that I posted where I talked a little bit about the importance of representation and why Kiki Palmer's show Southern Fried Rice was probably not a great idea for this time. Then I'm very connected to the idea of people seeing things that represent them and their journeys on screen, on camera, in the content that they take in. And that being said, I want to talk about a little bit of the reception I got when I posted the video about women not calling themselves ugly. While most of you saw where I was coming from with my take, which was basically just to say, it's one thing to say, hey, I'm not everybody's vibe. It's quite another thing to say, I am a miserable bridge troll who I'm just going to accept the label that people give me and operate underneath that understanding. To me, that is a no. It is a misstep. And I'm speaking from experience as somebody who has been in several situations where she was not thought of as conventionally attractive. Hell, here on the internet, and we'll get to that in a second. But just being online in general, presenting myself, I've had to read some of the most atrocious and evil things that people have said about my appearance, about my body size, about my hair. And if I took that in and took that as law, then you guys would not have seen me after the summer of 2021. I don't think anybody realizes how impactful it is to come out with a video and say, hey, I don't have pretty privilege, and to have people arguing in the comments about every single thing that's wrong with you and convincing themselves and others why you're ugly, why you deserve. I mean, if you haven't been there, you don't get to talk to me. Okay. At a certain point, it's just like, you know what? You haven't really been there. You ain't really been there. And by that, I just mean, if I can go through that and still come out and think, oh, hey, I can post on Instagram. I can post this. I can post that. I can show up on camera with no makeup on, but I just got into facials, so my skin is looking really good. So I'm whatever. If I can go through reading all of the negative things that I've read about me, not because I wanted to, but because legally I was required to, and still show up and breathe in the general direction of the internet, then I think I have a little bit of grounds to talk about how you should and should not develop your self-concept. And that's really what I was talking about in that video. Like, it's one thing to acknowledge what people outside of you think, but if you take that in and you accept it as law, that's like step one to your overall demise as a human being, in my opinion. But I think a lot of people, it depends on how people build their bridge to you, build their connection to you. You had some people who were like, well, you can't say that, you've done the same thing. And I'm going to talk about that in a second, that idea. You had some people who were like, I don't think you really understand where they're coming from. Me? Okay. I don't get it. Okay. You have some people who were telling me to go back and watch Olay's video, if pretty is a privilege, ugly is a curse. And I kind of just bristled at that just a little bit, because it was like, you're not under, no, you don't get it. No, I get it. You don't get it. I get it. You don't get it. So in this video, I just want to make it clear a couple things. I want to make a couple things clear. And then I also want to talk about what I've done personally to fortify my self-concept in times where I've been treated terribly because of the way that I look. And I'm going to be real with y'all. When I was sharing some of my first stories about, love unsolved, which, by the way, I'm looking forward to how you guys perceive the next episode, because it is a doozy. But I was sharing some of those stories and people were like, they called you ugly as a child. That's why you still think you're ugly today. It's so important for me when I get that response to reiterate, no, I don't. When they said it when I was a kid, I was pissed at them, but I still knew and always was able to come back to myself and my own self-concept. And that's how I survived a lot of things, like to this day. So anyway, we're going to get into all of that. But first, I want to affirm some things for you. I want to affirm, or I'd like to confirm, that I understand that ugly is real. Okay. In my last video, I said ugly is not real because it's so subjective. It's based on who's looking at you at the time. So you can't really put that much stock in it at the end of the day. So I did say that. And I want to piggyback on that statement, but first I want to drive home the concept that a lot of you, I guess, thought was missing from my last video. Ugly is real. Obviously, like it's in the same way religion is real, in the same way that dietary preferences are real. Where you go in the world, who you're talking to, who you're surrounded by, the way that you've been taught to think, you're going to have ideas about the good and bad of things. And so if beautiful exists, obviously ugly exists too. If good exists, bad exists. If delicious exists, nasty exists, right? So by simple laws of how society runs, of course, ugly is real. It could be argued that racism, the idea of being prejudiced towards other people because of how they present, is an exercise in ugliness. And therefore, we can easily see how something being seen as ugly, the color of someone's skin, the texture of their hair, can carry with it ramifications that make it really, really hard to exist in a society. And if you happen to be in that group that has been labeled as ugly, you might pick up on those messages whether or not you're aware that you're picking up on them, or before you're old enough to understand that that's what you're being told. A great example of this is the doll test, and that is a test that has been performed on grade school children over the last, I want to say 50 or 60 years, 70 years, multiple times. It was a test that was used to illustrate the negative long-term effects of segregation or of a segregated society. And basically what it involved was Black children sitting down and having to decide what is good, what is beautiful, and what is ugly. And they were given a white doll and they were given a black doll. And they overwhelmingly chose the white doll as good or beautiful.
Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me.
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
So you have this belief system, you have this way of legislating things in a society that's 100% based on how people present physically. And because they present a certain way physically, they are thought of as inferior. And as a result, they can pick up on those messages, even if they're really young and it hasn't been said directly to them. When I was researching that test, when I was going back to take a look at that video, I also found a video of a woman who did a test at her school that she was teaching at amongst white students. And here in this test, she didn't have, Black students and white students to compare, but she was trying to make a point that when it comes to aesthetic privilege, when it comes to legislating privileges based on how people look, it can be as extreme as being a Black versus white, or as having brown eyes versus blue eyes.
This is a special week. Does anybody know what it is?
National Brotherhood.
National Brotherhood Week. What's brotherhood? Treat everyone as though he was your brother. And is there anyone in this United States that we do not treat as our brothers?
Yes.
Who? The black people. Who else?
Indians.
Absolutely, the Indians. Many places in the United States. How are black people treated? How are Indians treated? How are people who are of a different color than we are treated?
They don't get anything in this world.
Why is that?
Because they're a different color.
You think you know how that would feel to be judged by the color of your skin? I don't. Do you think you do? No, I don't think you'd know how that felt unless you had been through it, would you? It might be interesting to judge people today by the color of their eyes. Would you like to try this?
Yeah!
Sounds like fun. fun, doesn't it? Since I'm the teacher and I have blue eyes, I think maybe the blue-eyed people should be on top the first day. I mean, the blue-eyed people are the better people in this room. Oh, yes, they are. Blue-eyed people are smarter than brown-eyed people. This is a fact. The brown-eyed people do not get to use the drinking fountain. You'll have to use the paper cups. You brown-eyed people are not to play with the blue-eyed people on the playground. The brown-eyed people in this room today are going to wear collars so that we can tell from a distance what color your eyes are. Ready, Laurie?
Brown-eyed.
She's a brown-eyed. You'll begin to notice today that we spend a great deal of time waiting for brown-eyed people. I don't see the yardstick, do you?
It's coming over there. Hey, mister, you better keep that on your desk. Look, the brown-eyed people get out of hand.
Oh, you think if the brown-eyed people get out of hand, that would be the thing to use? Who goes first to lunch?
Blue-eyed.
The blue-eyed people. Blue-eyed people may go back for seconds. Brown-eyed people do not.
Brown-eyed.
Don't you know?
Oh, they're not smart. And it seemed like when we were down on the bottom, everything bad was happening to us.
The way they treated you, you felt like you didn't even want to try to do anything.
It seemed like Mrs. Elliot was taking our best friends away from us.
What happened at recess? Were two of you boys fighting?
Russell called me names and I hit him in the gut.
What did he call you?
Brown eyes. They always call us that.
Yeah, they keep calling us brown eyes.
What's wrong with being called brown-eyed?
It means that we're stupider.
I watched what had been marvelous, cooperative, wonderful, thoughtful children turn into nasty, vicious, discriminating little third graders in a space of 15 minutes.
These systems, these ways of looking at people, these systems that, we can call it racism, we can call it featureism, we can call it texturism, we can call it whatever. They lose their power once we take away the collective belief that one specific thing is ugly. Belief makes things real. So even if I was to say, oh, ugly is not real, of course it is. It is if people believe in it. If people believe that a specific race, a specific height, a specific physical trait is ugly, then they're going to act on that. When that concept is questioned and critiqued, then it can be corrected and the power of the label of ugly can be removed. Ugly only has power when it's supported by collective belief. So then we have to ask ourselves, how do we as people form collective beliefs? How do we form beliefs? A lot of people form beliefs based on how they have been socialized. So if you're born into a society and they're telling you, okay, well, if you look like this, you're good. If you look like this, you're bad. That's going to become a part of your belief system, whether you want it to or not. And you can spend your entire life trying to rebel against that. You could spend your life knowing that that exists, but trying to exist and be positive anyway, but you're going to be aware of it. Another way that we develop beliefs is through our own lived experience. So I'm in this group, okay? When I was growing up, in fact, when I was a kid, before I even got to school, people love to tell me stories about when I would go out in public and I would encounter men. Apparently, I was the biggest flirt in the world, when I was only 3 years old. I would see a man and I would immediately be like, as in, pick me up, come hug me, I'm so cute. When people saw me in the grocery store, this is any gender, and they passed by me and they didn't say hi, I would shout at them, hi, and wave my hands. I thought I was the absolute shit. Okay. I was like, I am it. I am that girl. And what changed my mind or what caused doubt was my lived experience. It was going to schools and being told, oh, well, you're not as pretty as girls with lighter skin. It was being told your hair texture is not what is considered desirable or attractive. It was being told, ooh, your body is weirder. I remember being in elementary school and being asked if I could even sit in the chair. My butt was so big, being mocked for having a bigger butt. And then when you get older, you think, oh, well, is my body only worth being sexualized? And so you grow up, and I've talked to other women about this, specifically other women of color, other Black women who were curvier in white environments. You got to be specific about who you've talked to so people understand your viewpoint and where you're coming from. Okay, I want to throw that out there too. But we talked about how you almost grow up disassociating completely from your body because you realize you have no control over what people are going to think about you and over what they're going to project onto you. So those are just my experiences as a kid, right? For me, a lot of the concepts that I have over my looks also translated into my dating life. While yes, there would be the occasional nice guy who would come across, there were also so many times where I thought, I'm supposed to be going out and meeting people and getting numbers and having fun, and this isn't fun. I'm being ignored. I'm invisible. What is life? What am I? What do I look like? So you start to develop this belief that you're not as good. And it's not necessarily something that you've been told. I wasn't told that at home. It's not something that you've necessarily experienced. I may have grown up in a predominantly white environment, but I didn't experience a lot of white people saying things like, we don't like you black people. If anything, besides the occasional comment about how big my butt was, I got a lot of positivity from my childhood and from people that surrounded me. So I definitely developed my more negative beliefs about myself through negative experiences. And someone said in the comments of my video about women calling themselves ugly, they said, well, you've had positive experiences, so it's easier for you to believe that you are beautiful. Yes, and I have eyes, okay? And that's something that I had to lean into more as I got older. It didn't matter if you went out and nothing happened. It didn't matter if every man you met was a brokey, was stank breath, who wouldn't fly you nowhere. You know what I'm saying? While you have the other girls online talking about, I know, I'm not going to marry the first guy that buys me a Prada bag. You don't marry that one. I saw that conversation one day and I was like, they buy bags, whatever. Even if no experiences happen to me that I connect with being experiences that happen to beautiful people, I have eyes, baby. I can see. I know what I'm looking at ain't bad. So at a certain point, you sort of take back the power that society has on you, and you have to decide for yourself that you like what you see. And I may have had like some positive experiences. I may have experienced people being desired or people being attracted to me. And there are some people that have never experienced that, and I own that. But I've also had incredibly negative experiences as well. And it can be hard when you've had both to decide what the truth is. Which brings me back to the point of that video, which is what you think of yourself needs to be the truth. But anyway, let's keep going. Collective belief is something that is really, really important when it comes to a society and what that society believes is ugly or pretty, et cetera, et cetera. And once again, if those standards are never questioned and if they're never critiqued, then you're just going to keep believing the same thing. And what's great, what I will give humans credit on, is evolving and progressing and what we believe is beautiful, what we believe can be seen, and stretching that. I do think that we do a good job of that. I think we do. And so in that way, once again, ugly is very subjective. It changes a lot. And on that note, I want to talk about how I tend to build a good self-concept. What I do when it doesn't even matter if it's just people saying that I'm ugly or that I'm not attractive or they don't. It's a lot of things that people can say about me that are extremely negative that I also include in that whole labeling of yourself as ugly. One of those things is people talking about how negative I am. People talking about how self-involved. I've been called a narcissist more times than I can count since coming on the internet. People saying that somebody wrote in that comment section, you don't know how to live your life. Woo! I have to admit, a couple years ago, again, when I did stumble upon certain areas of the internet that I had to look at for legal reasons and see just pages and pages and pages and pages of hate and negativity that people had posted about me, I can tell you that if I didn't have a strong self-concept, that would have been the end for me. It definitely would have been the end of the internet, for sure. But when I think of myself and how I build my foundation, I think of it like this. Comments and beliefs outside of me are like the sea, right? And then you have the shore, and then you have me. I'm kind of like a beach house on the shore. I've got storm-proof windows. I've got fortified, I've invested in the fortified legs that are like raised up. If you've ever been to a beach town and you've seen that, how people will have raised homes. And in general, inside of that building, inside of that home, I feel it with the things I love about myself. I've said this before, but one of the reasons why at this time in my life, I don't feel very lonely. Someone noticed, they came to visit me a couple weeks ago and they said, your phone doesn't ring a lot. And I was like, no, right now I'm absolutely in my loner era and I'm loving it. When I go out in public, I engage with people. I have some laughs. I love conversation. I like to come home to myself. And in that home, in that place, whether figurative or actual, concrete, I have the good memories I have about myself. I have the beauty I'm able to create with myself when it comes to doing my hair and makeup and doing certain looks, things that I like. I have a body that has, for the most part, done its job. I mean, I'm still mad about that whole fertility thing, but she gave me 39 years to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? I have my sense of humor that I love. I have good experiences and the positive comments that I've received. And so while I may sometimes venture out of the house, stand on the shore and get soaked by the sea, I may see a negative comment. I may get into a conversation with somebody and they're rude to me. And so those things might touch me. I just need to step back. I need to step back. I need to go back to the house. I need to come back to what I know about myself that is true and that is good and that I like. I cannot spend my time drowning in the sea of other people's opinions and other people's thoughts about me. I'll never make it. At the end of the day, you can believe whatever you want to believe about yourself. You want to think you're ugly? Go ahead. You want to think that? Go ahead. But I'm of the belief that I want to think things about myself that keep me strong, that keep my foundation strong, and that keep whatever happens inside my house, be it figurative or concrete. I want to keep that space safe and I want to keep it happy and I want to be on good terms with me. So no, you will never see me labeling myself with how the world thinks. Because again, they ain't just called me ugly up in this piece. I'm negative. I'm obsessed with myself. I'm closed-minded. I'm this. That's the sea, baby. That's the water. Let the tide come up the shore, whatever. I can observe it. Sometimes I can learn from it, but I don't drown in it. That's how I get down. That's me. On that note, there was a person who also left a comment and they said, well, you have said that you'll never date. And so you can't judge. I want to say this, guys, I'm not judge. I literally said, hey, I just don't think you should talk to yourself like that. I don't think that is. So anyway, someone was like, you can't judge because that's exactly what you did. You said you would never label yourself with anything final, but you've said you'll never find love. That's final. So I said, maybe I shouldn't do that shit either. That's what I commented back. Like, maybe I shouldn't do that either. But I also want to say when it comes to finding love or finding a relationship outside of yourself, I'm talking about the concept that you have with yourself. Anything outside of that is a collaboration, luck, timing. That's outside of you. You can't control what somebody else gonna do. I just got finished with 2 years of damn near psychosis with a man. No, not really, but seriously, an entanglement, a spiritual entanglement with a man I spent one night with, and we were the most incompetent pair of people that the universe ever put together. We couldn't go right for going left. We couldn't meet up for canceling the meets. We couldn't, every plan that I would try and make, I could never have imagined that two people could come together and be that terrible for each other and that terrible with each other. I can't control that. I can't control what's going to happen with someone else, but I can control me. I can have a good attitude about me. And that's the difference. So it's not really saying the same thing. And I'll say this too, when it comes to me and my attitude about love, what I do like to say is I will probably not. I am not likely to. And I say that because at 41 years old, after being single for the predominant of my adult life, yes, it's been a circus. Yes, I've had some weird experiences. Yes, some people have come in and out and definitely made a mark. But I'm 41 years old and I've never paid bills with a man. I've never slept. The last time I slept in a bed with a man consistently, like multiple nights in a week, I was 30. So it's been 11 years. It's been 3 years since I had a sleepover with a man. Since he stayed at my house, we woke up the next morning. Hey, boo, what you want to eat? 3 years. And before that, it had been 7 or 8, or a long time. When I started finally going on adult vacations, I went on them by myself. I've never been on vacation with a man. I've never celebrated a holiday with a man. Well, it's been 16 years since I've done that. Also, when I found out I couldn't have kids without 40 days and 40 nights of suffering, insurmountable medical bills, and I mean, just going through general hell to get them. And that's only to try. That's not even like guarantee. And we're now in the middle of the apocalypse. My question is, what I'm going to do with a man? What do I need him for? If a man only wants a woman to be like a caretaker and blah, 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 I really, when it gets down to it, I kind of just wanted a baby daddy. I kind of just wanted a man who was going to be a good father to my children, who I didn't mind sharing space with. I mean, yes, I have, fallen in love, and I've had all these feelings. But you know what? I have never been able to be with the object of my affection. Never, not once. And I've lived every time. I have lived my full adult life without a romantic relationship. And it is my belief. I was raised in the evangelical church. So it is, it is my belief that romantic relationships are supposed to serve an actual purpose. There's a reason for them. We're doing something together that elevates them outside of friendship. You get tax breaks. I've talked about this before. What reason do I have now as a 41-year-old who can no longer achieve one of my big dreams, which was to have my own children? It was not to adopt my own children. That's another thing that I'm honestly not really into. I'll be real with you. Whenever people suggest it, I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I'm into that. And I'll tell you why. Having your own kids feels like, at least for me, a spiritual and a biological calling. Adopting children is a different calling. That's something different. And that's not necessarily where my heart is right now. And I'm getting up there. If my heart ain't there, when will it get there? And I can't imagine going into a relationship with somebody and being like, I can't stress enough. The whole kids thing really knocked me off my course when it came to wanting a relationship. And I also can't stress enough that I have lived without it. I mean, yes, it's been tough. And I went through my 30s where I thought it was going to happen. And I have, oh man. But I made it. I lived without it. Every holiday season, I'm like, single again. But I make it. And I always have a good holiday. Oh, you know what? And on that note, about a couple months ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'll ever have sex again. Because I know I'm not into overnights. I mean, one nights. I'm not into hookups anymore. I grew out of those. What really makes me upset about that whole thing, or what really makes me hesitant to do that, is how can you have such a great experience with somebody and then that's it? Like y'all can't never get it together. I can never go through that again. So when I say it's probably not going to happen, that's based on my experience. And unlike when I talk about like how I look, like, and I've never said this, but, I'm not as attractive as so-and-so. With relationships, I don't have anything to go back to. They're not in my house. They're not in my fortress on the sea. Good relationship experiences have never happened to me. So why would I ever believe that they would? And also, what's negative and final about being single? What's negative about that? I read a story the other day, or a woman posted a thread the other day, and I'll see if I can find her, posted here. She started posting about the sex tax of women when they're in relationships with men, and then the sex tax period when you're with another person. I was always able to enjoy sex, it was like a tasting menu. It was something but I have never been under lock and key to perform that. My body's always been mine. There is no reason in the world to believe that I would ever be in a relationship, and life has shown me that I'll probably make it without it. It's all right. Once babies were off the table, I was like, I guess I'm going to be all right without it. Then damn. But again, just going back to my original point, saying that me being against saying that you're ugly versus me being against, or me believing that I'll probably never be in a relationship. Again, I still offer a little bit of gray area. I'm like, probably. I made a video last year that was like, I'm not dating in my 40s unless And I really still stick to that. Unless something amazing comes along, you will never convince me again to be dating, speed dating, dating coach, any of that shit. I'm out. There's just no reason for it anymore. There used to be for me. There's not now. But even then, being single does not have to be a negative thing. It could be argued, especially for women who have been married and the marriage has gone a certain way, that singleness is preferred, right? But believing that you're ugly is always a negative thing. It's always a negative thing, in my opinion. My self-concept depends on me. Being in a relationship depends on collaborating with another person. And I can never control what another person is going to do, but I can control what I do and what I believe about myself. Again, just to wrap this up, I want to go ahead and affirm your beliefs and confirm that we think the same thing. Ugly is real. Of course, because societies tend to believe the same things are ugly. That's what that social group says. That's that social reality. And so people that think that about themselves usually have been told that by their specific society. But when that belief is questioned, when it's critiqued, maybe when the society changes a little bit, you're allowed to think something different. And so me personally, I would never hang my hat on calling myself a specific thing, especially when it's as negative as that. When it brings me pain to say it, that's a big thing. And when the society that believes it could change its mind at any time. And on that note, just wrapping up, this entire conversation reminds me of the principle of ecstasis, which is something I learned when I was a freshman in college taking my first sociology course, because I thought I was going to be a little sociologist when I was in college. And I took my first course and we read this book called, it was by Peter L. Berger. I'll put the book up here. And the concept of ecstasis to him was based on the Greek word ecstasy, which basically meant like to remove oneself. And so the concept of ecstasis was that moment that you have, if you're willing to have it, where you sit back and you look at a society not as a concrete thing with realities that are going to exist forever. You look at the way people behave in society and the way they interact with each other, not as things that can't be changed, not as things that are stagnant, but as roles people learn that naturally progress and change over time. And so in that way, you become, instead of just a robotic participant in whatever's going on, you become an objective observer. And in a way, you're like a caveman walking out of a cave and finally stepping into the sun. Or he says something like that. I'll put it up here on the screen. But whenever I think about me and my relationship, my personal relationship to beauty and beauty standards, I think about that process. It's very easy to get wrapped up in negative messaging, especially when your reality, your lived reality, does not match up to what you think someone who is considered beautiful is experiencing. But if I step back a little bit and I observe, I can play with that reality a little bit. I can play with that. Things become more subjective. If I include all the experiences that I've had, not just the negative ones, I realize that at the end of the day, my ultimate definition for what I am and who I am needs to be something I decide. Society can change, flip, flop, but I need to be a foundation for myself. And so that's why you'll never see me labeling myself ugly. I'll never say, oh, I'm fat. I'll never say, oh, I'm stupid. I'll never say, oh, God, I'm so negative. No. At my core, I believe I am beautiful. I am good. I've got a good body. And I'm positive. Anyway, that is all I wanted to say about that. I just wanted us to be on one page. And for those of you who I will see tomorrow for the last episode of Love Unsolved, you will see me again. And for those of you who I won't see, I hope you have a good October. And for now, that's all. Thanks for watching.